I remember like the first time I saw you like setting up to DJ, and I'm like, oh my God, she's such a badass. And she does vinyl. I met Amanda around the same time, and I wrote Champagne for her. If I have a mic, like I can stand on like two milk crates and make it happen. Jump on you and act like I'm riding your dick, and then we're gonna roll off the stage together. It's gonna be real punk rock. Everyone's gonna love it. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Recognizing there's always gonna be ups and downs, and you just can't stop.
Hey there, it's me, Roxy Cottontail. You might know me as a DJ, artist, designer, and New York City party promoter, or from my bunny logo. I'm putting all that on the table and writing about the years that transformed music and the New York City scene. I've interviewed 250 friends and colleagues I admire. I ask all and reveal all. Please join me and the Tales to rediscover the 90s and the Y2K magical landscape of music, art, technology, and streetwear. This is Roxy's Tales.
My name is Cazwell, and I am a performer, artist, rapper, writer, singer, producer, party thrower, iconic DJ, and fashion line owner.
My guest this week on Roxy's Tales is the one, the only Cazwell. In the Y2K era of music, Cazwell arrived as one of the first openly gay rappers, paving a way for many artists after. Alongside his music, songwriting, and comedic genius, what Cazwell created for New York City nightlife and now Los Angeles as a DJ and party producer is a beautiful history lesson too. We go off on the early era of his beginnings from Boston to New York City and so much more. Without further ado, Cazwell.
And you and I know each other from New York City nightclubs and music. You're originally from Boston, is that right?
I'm originally from Worcester, Massachusetts, which is about 40 minutes, I think, east of Boston. Worcester's like very central Massachusetts. It's about like 10 degrees trashier than Boston. And then I moved to Boston in the late 90s. And then in 2000, I moved to New York.
And you were always in nightlife? Like how, like, were you going to raves or clubs in Massachusetts?
I'd gone to a few raves. I wasn't like crazy about it because I wasn't crazy about a lot of the techno at that time. I was more into house, and I felt like it was the music at raves was really extreme for me, but I enjoyed it when I took drugs and went with friends. So I would do raves in Massachusetts. In the Boston area, they were pretty popular at the time in the 90s. And then I always worked in clubs, either bar backing or door check or coat checker. I always worked in clubs since I was 21, but I never really got hired to like host and things like that until I moved to New York City and I was like 26.
What brought you to New York?
At the time, I was in a rap group called MorPlay. So we started our career in Boston, and we knew the next step was New York. So we moved to New York in October of '99, and we were together for like another year. And then she moved to Seattle, and then I went solo. But it was music that brought me to New York.
Amazing, very cool. MorPlay.
Mm-hmm.
Have I heard? I want to hear this.
No, you don't. But we were on Larry T's label for a year when he had Mogul Electro, and he had signed like Chicks on Speed and Avenue D and stuff. It was going nowhere really fast, and we had different work ethics. And she wouldn't do the lesbian thing and moved to Seattle, and I wanted to stay and become an icon and just be an artist in New York. So then when we broke up, that's when I was giving my music to everyone, and that's when I met Bill Coleman from Peace Biscuit. And then I got signed to Peace Biscuit as my record label and my management. I was with them for 14 years.
Wow. So in '99, you come to New York, and were you going out at all in the city?
When I moved to New York, I got a job at Barracuda cocktail waitering. And so I worked there like 4 nights a week. And that's pretty much my introduction to nightlife and just the drag queens and the artists that came to support them, because they had drag shows every night, especially Star Search, where there was a competition. So this is where I first met like a crowd of like gay artists. And then I started writing for drag queens. I'll tell you really quick. Do you know the song I do with Avenue D called The Sex That I Need?
I don't know if I know it.
Anyway, so I wrote that for this drag queen called Conchetta. Asked her, I was like, hey, I like how you perform. I'd like to write a song for you. And she's like, oh yeah, great. She was drunk. And I was like, well, what do you like? What inspires you? What should I write about? She's like, I like Latin uncut cock. So I wrote a whole song about it, and then it didn't go anywhere, and it kind of like we had a falling out. And then when me and Avenue D were both signed to Mogul Electro, they're like, "Hey, do you think you could write us a song?" And I was like, "Well, I have this one." They're like, "We'll take it." And then I was already rapping on the song, so that's how it started with that. And then I met Amanda around the same time, and I wrote Champagne for her and produced that, and My Hair Looks Fierce. And then before I knew it, I was like performing all the time. And I mean, I always got my foot in the door from my collaborations with other people, so I really enjoy doing that, and as a producer and a writer, and just working. I think my favorite thing about what I do is being with my friends.
Yeah. So when was that you wrote that song for Avenue D?
That was like 2000, 2001. Then we started like touring, and we actually did Charlotte, North Carolina a few times, and went down to Boston. And so that was just like really cool. Also, just like everything that I did was so gay, and like because I just worked in gay clubs, I knew gay people, so I kind of started doing like straight gigs with them. So yeah, it was cool. Like I love those girls so much. They're so much fun.
And Champagne. So how did you meet
Okay.
Amanda and then start writing songs for Amanda?
Okay. Well, I was dating this guy that worked at Patricia Fields, and at the time, Amanda worked at Patricia Fields. And you know what? Larry T's first club bad was at Joe's Pub, and I had performed at Joe's Pub, and Amanda saw me perform. And Amanda also knew me because I was dating a guy that worked at Patricia Fields. And one time she called me and she's like, "Oh, Cazwell, like my birthday party at Spa is on Thursday. Like, could you please perform? And I get the club to give you $200. Like, will that work for you?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally." I remember when I was done, I was walked into like the more fancier part of Spa, and I saw Amanda sitting on top of the banquette, and she was in between Kenny and someone else, and she had a glass of champagne in her hand, and she was like dressed how she dresses. And I was like, oh my God, like I've never seen like Champagne represented so well. Like she just looks perfect right now. And I went home and I wrote Champagne, and I got this guy, Chris Bracco, who I've worked with like 20 years as a producer, to produce it with me. And I remember I met her on the street, I gave her the lyrics, and I was like so amped up. I'm like, Amanda, I want this to be big like the Beatles. Like they're gonna play this song every night at midnight on New Year's Eve at the Playboy Mansion. Like this is this gonna change everything? And she's like, okay, yeah, cool. And so we recorded it. And then the thing I just want to say, like, thing I really loved about like doing this with Amanda is as I started to work with her, she lived around the corner from me, and we would work together at gigs. So we hung out like every day and practiced every day, and I knew everything that was going on in her life. So that when I wrote the album I Am Amanda Lepore, it was very autobiographical, and I love albums like that. She went to receive a Glammy Award, like the Gay Nightlife Awards, and she won Best Dressed, and she won on stage naked. And she says, "I don't know much about clothes, but my hair looks fierce." And I was like, "Oh, that's a great name for a song." So I took that, and then that became the second single. So I take a lot of pride in like her performance now, because she really, and I'm proud of her because she really came a long way. She wasn't a performer. Like she had two left feet. I mean, she still does, but she's confident about those left feet. But but she
yeah,
really
I know that you like kind of worked with her as a coach in a lot of ways to get up on stage and just projecting and the landing the cues or the move or whatever,
Yeah, I was definitely like a stage mother. Yeah, plus she's like the most interesting person I've ever met. So to have the opportunity to like allow other people to get to know her through the lyrics that are true to her life, I felt that was a really great opportunity.
Yeah, because like Amanda's been a club kid since.
Yeah, well, Amanda, I mean, she used to live in New Jersey. She ran away from her husband, and she, I think I've talked about this 100 times before, but like the thing about Amanda that makes her so different is she did not come to New York with an agenda. One night they went out to Limelight, and she like walked in, and Michael Alec was like, "Oh my God, you're gorgeous. Can you work here every Saturday night and on Thursdays at 8?" She's like, "Yeah." And then that's how she got involved. And then David LaChapelle found her, and she's like, "Oh, I want to take pictures of you." Like she never asked. She was never going to auditions. She wasn't trying to be famous. Like she's not that outgoing, but she just kind of like appreciates what she has in life, and like takes advantage of the opportunities like when they come up, and like she doesn't like ask for much. I mean, she could tell you some wild stories, but like But I think one of the reasons like David is so attracted to her is because, and he's told her before that he's like, she's the one person that doesn't try to use him, you know, and he can sniff that out, and she doesn't even, so he feels really safe around her.
I mean, who doesn't feel safe around her? Like, I feel like you guys were like a pair that I would
Yeah.
see pretty much out all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I loved it. You were in New York too for for 9/11, right?
Yeah.
Where were you?
I was living in Chelsea on 19th between 9th and 10th. Like, I don't even think it hit me until 2 days later, like how crazy this was. I don't think I was digesting the information. I remember I was signed with Larry at the time. And the day it happened, I like saw him on the street. I'm like, oh, here's my press kit and here's this new tape. And can you use this picture and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, wow, you like work nonstop. Like it's practically the end of the world and you're worried about your promo. And I was like, and then it like, I guess maybe I subconsciously didn't want to think about it yet because it's just so intense, you know, what had happened. So yeah, it was a lot to take in. And I also remember like right before that happened, everyone was kind of like, or maybe it was just because of the scene I was in, but everyone was kind of like, oh, fuck New York, and New York sucks, and New York nightlife, and what the fuck, and the cops in New York, and blah, blah, blah. I hate New York. And then once this happened, it was like, oh my God, I love New York. New York, we stand strong. Like it was a complete flip. Did you notice that change?
Well, I think that because of what Giuliani was doing and just fucking with everyone's livelihood, it made things annoying, I think, and like less fun. But I think when 9/11 happened, it was, you know, everyone bonding together to like make the best of the worst. I don't remember there being that much of a lull. It was just like, let's go out and drink.
Right.
So where else were you going when you were working at Barracuda?
Larry T had just started Berliniumsburg, and was it the Lux? What was the name of that club
Lux,
in Williams?
Williamsburg, Lux, yeah.
And Mutants. It was a Friday, Saturday night party. So I was doing that and I was performing there pretty regularly too. So I was starting to build my fan base. And I remember that's where the Scissor Sisters started and Justin Baum would perform there. So that was like the place to be. And also the most fashionable crowd in New York. And that's where I started to meet everybody from different spectrums of the gay scene and connected.
Yeah,
And
how did you meet Larry?
Okay, when I met Larry T, I didn't move to New York. It was 1996 or 7. I lived in Boston and I was going to New York every weekend with my demo tape, and it was a tape. And I was like, I'm gonna meet people. So one time I went to Twilo, and it might have been Halloween. I think Cyndi Lauper was performing, and I was going up the stairs and Larry T was going down the stairs, and I look up and there's this guy with like the shaved head and this big nose and these big googly glasses. First thing he says is, "Hi, I'm Larry T. I wrote You Better Work for RuPaul." It was like, so we just started talking about music and stuff, and then I would send him like tapes or CDs or whatever I was using at the time in the mail, and I would call him. I'm like, what do you think? Like I was so hungry, and he's like, I'm not feeling it. And then there was this one track I sent him. He's like, you know what, this one I like. I forgot what the name of it was, but it was a MorPlay track because I was like determined to make MorPlay a household name. And then Michael Schmidt, who did Squeezebox. I heard about Squeezebox. I went, I'm like, I have to do the show. Like I'll make it if I make it the show. And I would send him letters and like a postcard with a picture of like my fingers crossed. I'm like, I really hope you give me this gig. And then they took a chance on us, and then we did good. I brought my DJ, and MorPlay played at Squeezebox, and I was like, we just have to move here.
And you're making music. You play Squeezebox, which is freaking huge. You did some touring with the Avenue D. When did you start throwing your own parties?
Well, that pretty much came with the help of Formica. There's been few times that I've done the type of party that I have to come up with all the money and pay and then deal with the debt. And then there's times that I just like heavily work promotion and put my face on it. Like I developed a real partnership with Formica, who was AKA Mistress Formica, AKA Michael Formica Jones, because I begged her to like hire me for Boys Room when the first Boys Room opened on Avenue A and 2nd Street. She hired me first I was a bartender, and then I was like, you should just have me host. And so she got rid of one host, and she's like, okay, you can do like the Go-Go Idol competition. And this was like my first gig like weekly. And I was like, this is like 2004, right? And I'm like, wow, like I get paid $200 every week just to show up, and I get to perform and do this. Like, and I was like, there's so many like performers that would do this for free. And I was so grateful for this opportunity. Like I felt like I was like living the dream, and I was. And so that's when it started. And then me and her, so I worked very hard on Boys Room, and Boys Room moved. And then we did a party called Family on Avenue C. And that's when I first met Lady Gaga. Quick story, when Lady Gaga first started with Let's Dance, Just Dance, she was doing that. She was pushing that song for like 8 months before anyone heard it. And she was working with a gay marketing team that I also worked with, and they got me on the remix CD. So when they gave it to the gay DJs, like my rap would be on it. And so we did like two gigs together. And the first time I met her, I showed up at a Family, and it's like the stage is like the size of this desk, okay? And she had and she was already in costume for sound check. I could show up for sound check, and she had the big glasses with the fucking jewels glued all over them, and black spandex, and just like done. And she had these two dancers that were wearing like all black, but were wearing like these plastic yellow Birkenstock looking things, but somehow she made it look cool. And then she's like, okay, well, after you do your rap, I'm going to throw you down on the stage, and I'm going to jump on you and act like I'm riding your dick. And then we're going to roll off the stage together. It's going to be real punk rock. Everyone's going to love it. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So we did it. And then she did Poker Face, maybe, or no, Disco Stick, that song. And when we were done, everyone was just like another club kid with a song. Like no one knew who she was yet. I like her because like she's kind of like one of us as far as the scene. I mean, I know that she has affluent parents who went to a nice school and all that type of shit, but has connections. But I liked that she was roughing it and doing just like the clubs and hanging in there. So I mean, I connected with her right away. She's cool.
Yeah. Was that 2006 or 7?
I think that's 7 or 8. I think it's like 8. Yeah, I think she dropped that song in December, and it didn't get popping until May.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I remember she hosted a Motherfucker. I just found the flyer where we're both hosts on a Motherfucker. I think a lot of why Lady Gaga exists, we both know, is because of Starlight. That
was a big topic of conversation, especially among the makeup artist community, because so many of them were close with Lady Starlight and how talented she was. And a lot of things they saw Lady Gaga do, they saw her do, like everything from like bangs to the eyes to like the whatever. But, Lady Gaga never claimed to be an original. We can see the cross references. Yeah. So like I never held that against her. But I think that, when she had talked about Lady Starlight too, I wonder if they're still friends. I don't know, but it'd be interesting to know. Well, as I'm talking about this, and I'm like, I haven't thought about this in a while. So just to like see all the connections made, like you're gonna get a lot of interesting perspectives.
Yeah. So Boys Room is your first party with Formica. How long was that? What night was that?
That was every Saturday night, and that was probably from 2005 to 2010. It moved to a few locations in the East Village, but the original spot was the 2-floor club on Avenue A and 2nd Street.
Amazing. And then to Family, or that was another party?
Then Family was a Saturday night party, and that started like 2007, 2008.
I think also like the Hole and the Cock were...
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Like that room was magic in its own way, because it was like, I think I experienced, like I had already been to Motherfucker and seen, all I thought there was to see. And then I went to the Hole, which was previously the Cock, and then went back to the Cock. But it was like a really wide open experience for me. And I think that Rated X was on that level of, I had just never seen like criminal, like sex acts and like live graffiti before, you know, it was like what I like probably imagined the 80s in New York would be like. And that was what
It was great, but also like that's where you go and to hear the best music. Like they always had really great DJs, and that's where Nita started, and Honey Dijon thing would play there, and Miss Guy would play there all the time. And so it wasn't, you wouldn't like hear typical like pop songs, or like if you want to get away from Chelsea, like it was just like greasy, grimy. You could always find a coke dealer. It was just really sexy, and just they didn't put any effort into like the lights or anything. It was just the shambles. So I mean, I loved it.
It was kind of like a precursor to the box, I feel like. Like that kind of shenanigans,
like Narcissist type shit.
Yeah. So where else were you spinning or hosting?
Well, first before I was DJing, I was just like hosting and performing and bartending, and then I started bartending at Posh in Hell's Kitchen, and then I just started DJing there. And I always tell people, like, if you want to start DJing, like DJ at a bar where no one gives a fuck, where you could just fuck up. And of course I had CDs, and I couldn't learn how to mix yet, and then I was like figuring all that out, because at that point on my first single, All Over Your Face had come out, so people knew who I was by my music. So clubs would hire me to DJ, whether or not they heard me DJ, just on the basis that people knew who I was. But I'll be honest with you, like one of the reasons I admire DJs like you, and seeing how just like natural it is, like I'm a natural performer. Like I can, like if I have a mic, like I can stand on like 2 milk crates and make it happen. Like I'm really uncontrived with it. But when it comes to DJing, like the whole technical aspect, I feel like I'm the pilot of a plane, and if I fuck up, the whole place could crash, and it's all my fault. You know what I mean? So I used to have real anxiety about it, and sometimes I still do, because I don't think that's my natural form of entertainment. But I'm good at it now, and I have good taste in music, and I know how to pick the right music to get people to stay and drink. So I'm glad I have that under my belt, because that's how I support myself now. But it takes a while to get good and comfortable. I don't know if you feel the same. Did you start in a similar situation?
For sure. I think the first time that I really, I'd started in 2004. I think maybe my first gig was 2005, but I practiced.
Did you learn from Justine?
No, I actually, well, she showed me, but I didn't want to like practice on her equipment because I didn't want to fuck anything up. And so when I met Bugsy, really, and I was like, can I come practice DJing at your club during the day? And he was like, are you kidding? We would love that. And I was like, okay. And so I like started practicing at his club that he had on, it was called Soho 323. It was across from the Soho Grand Hotel. And I would go there like, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week and practice during the day. And then finally felt confident enough that he gave me a Thursday night.
That's awesome. I remember like the first time I saw you like setting up to DJ, and I'm like, oh my God, she's such a badass. And she does vinyl. It's like, and she's like a girl DJ. Another conversation that like is definitely due, I don't know like who you would want to talk to, but there's a real, besides a shortage of like, women as DJs, there's like no women producers. Like, and I just met this one girl, she's 19, she wants to start producing. I'm like, we need you, like we need your perspective. Like I've been doing this for 20 years. I've never worked with a female producer, and I'm totally up for it.
Yeah.
Isn't that like crazy?
It is.
I know you're supposed to be interviewing me, but also I think when Bounce and that was popping, I remember like that was like number 1 on like the new disco charts or independent dance charts or something like that. And I played that, like I burnt the fuck out of that song. I played that song for like 3 years.
Actually, someone just a gay that I know just sent me a video of him at Boom Boom Room on Sunday night, on Halloween night, and whoever was spinning played the song.
Isn't that great? You made a classic like clubs anthem.
Well, thanks to Larry T.
So he produced that track, right?
He produced it. We co-wrote it together, and then Afrojack was one of the remix that really knocked it out of the park.
Oh, that's right. So how did that song get so hot? Was it that Larry T was pushing his music everywhere, then people were paying attention to him, and then Afrojack just took it?
No, it was like Larry, he was like, I want to get you know, 5 different remixes for this song. Like, do you think we could get Diplo? Like, who do you want? What are you into?
He said that to you or to?
Yeah. He was like, do you think Diplo would want to remix this? Like, who are the hot producers? And I was like, I can ask, you know, like I'll ask around. And he was like, there's this new sound called Dutch house coming out, which is like kind of the precursor to EDM. And he played me, I don't know if he played me Afrojack, but he played me, there's somebody else that remixed one of the songs. It was like Afrojack's boy and him. And he was like, there's this guy Afrojack too. Like, let's get them. And I think he only paid him like a really like cheap amount to remix.
Like a Larry T amount of money. Like a pair of sneakers. Yeah.
And you know, the price tag for Dutch House was not very high because no one had really heard it.
Right.
It was still fairly new.
See, you trusted your instincts.
I know. Well, you know, Larry's he is a, you know, ahead of the curve in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, like Larry, like I said, you know, one of the first people I met in New York and before I moved there, and he's definitely taught me a lot because before I met Larry, I was trying to make it in hip hop by taking my music, which was gay, and submitting it to like, because Boston is a very hip hop like centric town. Boston is called like the city of threes and trees because everyone wears Adidas and Timberlands. And so it's just very that. And so I would always try to get their attention. And I came to the realization that, oh, wow, like no matter how talented, I mean, this is the late 90s, like no matter how talented I am, no one's going to want to work with a gay rapper. Like this is like 20 years ahead of its time now. So when I met Larry and he was just bubbling up the idea of Electroclash, what I learned from him was like, look, if you try to go to other people, you're never going to get there. What you have to do is create your own space and your own look and your own sound and invite people to come to you. And then when I took on that perspective, everything changed for me. So like Larry was like, I always give him a shout out, like when it comes to, you know, people that helped mold me when I moved to New York, you know, and become a New Yorker.
I mean, for me too. You know, I was also thinking was a really fun party was that it was like the Big Top Circus or something.
Yeah, I DJ'd that party. Me and Paisley Dalton DJ'd one room, and Nita and Will before
Carrie Nation.
Yeah, before, I think it was right when Carrie Nation started or like right before it started. Like,
yeah, when was that? 9, 10?
That was like 10 because that's when Ice Cream Truck came out, and that was that's where I met Peaches, and that's when I was like, I was like, we got to do like a song together, like please. She's like, all right. So I was like, oh my god, like this is some vision board shit. Like she's like the greatest. So I sent her 3 tracks, and then she chose Unzip Me. And then I remember like the first time I got her vocals, I'm like, oh my god, she's such a bad girl. Like I just love her voice. It was just like that was definitely an honor. Like I'll leave it at that to work with her.
Yeah, no, that's like as iconic as you can get.
I mean, that was a good time because, you know, I was just getting paid to be an entertainer, and, you know, I was just getting famous and feeling like a rock star. But at the same time, you know, I looking back, I started a lot of unhealthy, unproductive relationships and friendships with people that didn't really have my back, but even more just wanted to like, you know, be my friend for clout. Not to like gas myself up, but it is a fact that it does happen. It did happen. So I felt like the whole scene eventually ended up clouding my observance, and I feel like I was, you know, didn't make the best decisions, but I kind of like, you know, pulled out of that too. And that's, I think things really started to change. Like about a year after Ice Cream Truck came out, I started to make money and getting like a good rate for gigs. So then I like moved, because at the time I was living in a one bedroom studio. Like it was a studio, a railroad studio in the East Village, and they only put on like the heat when it snowed, and it was like built out of popsicle sticks. And I lived there for 7 years. And then I moved to Hell's Kitchen, and that was then like the dust started to clear a little bit.
So how did those early 2000s impact your life?
It started to impact my life because I started to receive the things that I was manifesting for years before. because when I lived in Boston, I dropped out of college to do music full time. At the time, it was MorPlay. And so I decided, look, if I take the same amount of effort and energy that I put into college and I put into music, I'll get there. Like, I just know I'll get there. So like, I mean, at the time there was no internet. So I literally had to make a press kit with the CD, and I made it like, and then made all my phone calls, made all my connections, did everything, you know, it built and it turned into things, and it turned into like, you know, Squeeze Box, and then CBGBs, and then moving to New York City, and then people know, and then it building, and then getting signed, and then getting a song, and then people actually like flying me somewhere to perform the song, which is a miracle if you can make a living off being a performer. So like, I just like that feeling of like, oh wow, like I worked hard and it's starting to pay off, you know. But at the time, as an out gay artist, it can only go so far because labels aren't taking a chance on you and you're not mainstream. So I just I just feel like that time I really recognized the power of hard work and focus, and like keeping it going, and what happens when you just don't stop. One thing I learned in that time was that, you know, when I did All Over Your Face, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm someone now that I dropped like my next single, Watch My Mouth, and no one cared. And then I See Beyond Say Bird King, and then I'm getting hired again. And then I did like Give Me Tonight, and no one cared. Like there's been all these ups and downs, and you're always taking a chance, especially a big financial chance. Like I paid for all my videos even when I was signed, you know, I paid for everything. And it's a huge investment to a club kid that's making $200 a week, you know. It kind of like set the blueprint for what my life still is, as far as like recognizing there's always going to be ups and downs, and you just can't stop.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so that's when it just became like clear to me. I definitely think that that this was a period of time in which gay culture kind of proved that it could guide the direction with music in ways that it didn't before.
Yeah, because it became broader than just club music.
Yeah, but you have to, I think what's so interesting, that I think it's a very important thing, I'll say this last, I think the most important thing is because it was music was integrating with different circles and different cultures, but that was also because the internet was slowly exploding, and so we weren't used to that yet. So there was all this new like feeling of new technology that you could pick up on, even like an electro clash, and just the way that you could find samples online that you couldn't do before, and just like, and people that could make their own music at home instead of renting a studio. So all these new aspects that were coming in, that were hitting people differently, you know, like all those big like Afrojack and Dip, like they started like on their own, like, you know, like making their own shit on a NPC. So and then getting, you know, being able to get samples online, and like, and then having access to all the music in the world for the first time ever. Like, so this is what really just like made things explode. But the thing about, like we were saying before, it wasn't just in one direction, it was like in every direction it exploded. So it all ended up connecting. But it had a lot to do with like where club culture meets Wi-Fi.
Yes, this is
You know what I mean?
There's a producer and rapper named Hollywood Holt from Chicago, and he said the 80s had hip hop and we had the internet.
Mhm.
And it is a big piece of this story, because as you know, I was like a little keyboard warrior myself.
If you have any other questions or you want to hit me up again, like I'm always here for you, baby.
All right, awesome.
Thank you, Kat. Thanks for hopping by. That's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and stalk. Bounce, little kitty.